Hey Susan, how are you? Can you hear me?
I can. How are you?
Awesome. Wonderful. Nice to see you, Susan. Unfortunately, I am like technologically handicapped, and that's why I
Ah,
can't.
you'll be fine.
Nice to see you in person. We've been doing so many chats and all of this. I really
Yes.
appreciate you taking the time and joining in today. And
Great to
welcome to the
see you.
Procurement Doctor show.
Thank
And
you.
I had run a poll a few weeks ago, and I was surprised to some extent. I thought procurement data would come in second, but you won over robotics and process automation, and people
Oh,
chose
wow.
procurement data as a topic. And
It's a problem.
absolutely, and
Yeah.
I'm very happy that people are recognizing it. They're not going for the fancy stuff.
I
Before it was
know.
like the dumb, mundane. They look at data stuff as dumb, mundane stuff because they don't want to do it themselves,
Yeah.
and they don't give the required recognition to it. And
I
now I see
think,
that people thoroughly value it. They see because of machine learning, all this stuff. It's very evident that you can't run away from it. So
yeah, I think they're realizing that, you can't just buy some software and it'll fix it. That's not going to
that's right.
work. But, I've been talking about this for 4 years now, and it's only really started to get some traction, I think, in the last maybe 2 years.
Absolutely. And I thank people like you who are bringing it up in the front and giving it the
Someone has
deserved
to.
recognition or respect. That's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
And
And also, let's make it a little bit fun.
absolutely. Oh, that's the best way to go about it, right?
Yeah.
I remember a lot of the procurement subjects also are very dry or monotonous, or people like contracts, for instance. Once
Yeah.
I start teaching contracts, half the class goes for sleep. So this is also one of those subjects we need to make it more sexier, more appealing for the youngsters to look at it and learn from it as a fact. So
Yeah,
thank you
it's
so
not,
much for being on the show.
no, my pleasure. And it's not going to go away. So we need to get people consistently interested as well. It's not just a quick fix and you're done. There's always
That's
going to
right.
be dirty data.
Absolutely. And there's always going to be a bleeding of the fixes, as well as if you don't look at it, there's going to be problems at all.
Yeah.
Well, pardon me, I was supposed to do the introductions. I know people know you. You're someone who doesn't need introductions. I've been trying to practice my introductions since yesterday with my
Yeah.
kids, and they were laughing. I was trying to do an announcement like they do in the boxing matches, right?
Yeah.
Like they say,
Brilliant.
Susan was a classification guru, the fixer of dirty data, creator of the code, the mistress of data, and supplier normalization. And you have this lovely new book coming up. We'll talk towards the book towards the end of the
You know,
session because I want my viewers to know more about it.
yeah,
I
I'm so
love the
excited.
name of it. It's called the Between the Spreadsheets, right?
Yeah.
So that's really awesome.
Yeah.
So you've been doing a stellar job, Susan, of late in the last couple of years. I've seen your content so much come up over and over again, and I'm lucky that we get to collaborate at least through these comments or the videos that you put out. You're one of the most what do you say creative personalities I've seen
Oh, thank
in
you.
this space. So there's definitely a lot for me to learn from you.
Yeah, I think the most important thing for me is to have fun. So I have
Hmm.
to enjoy what I'm doing, and I also learned pretty quickly that people weren't interested in data. It's boring. So I have to find different ways to catch their attention.
Hmm.
So yeah, so having some fun with it is the way to go.
Absolutely. And that's been my mantra as well. You got to love what you do. How do
Yeah.
you love is you need to have a bit of fun in it, enjoy it. If else, you start doing a shitty job. That's what happens to
Totally.
me.
Yeah. Yeah. You're
Right. So
disinterested. Yeah.
yeah, I'd rather speak to my boss and tell him, bro, I'm not liking what I'm doing. Can you do it yourself, or can you have someone else who might be interested in it? Rather, keep trying it.
Yeah.
So it definitely helps for sure. So I have I got a nice mix of audience or people who've been following me over the years. As a procurement doctor, there are a lot of people who keep coming back to me asking, Karthik, tell me how do I progress in my career and so on and so forth. And I intend to ask all of my guests this one question as to what are your three sources of knowledge for you to keep yourself updated or for you to keep the latest trends in mind or to ensure that you give the right stuff to your customer as well, right? You need to be the best of yourself. So would you mind sharing those three pieces?
Yeah, so this is probably a bit bad actually. I listen to things like World of Procurement podcast, James Meada's the Procure Tech podcast, there's the Negotiations Ninja podcast. So I listen to those kind of things. I go to like procurement events. I'm not a great reader. I know it's just a bit silly considering I've just written a book, but so I like to, yeah.
How do you expect people to read your book if you don't read stuff?
Well, it's instructional. So
Okay.
it's as well as explaining the why you need to do it. There's the how in there as well. So that makes it a bit easier. But yeah, I like to engage in discussions or podcasts because I find that you get a lot more up-to-date information about what's going on, especially in the procurement world. It's changing all the time. There's some great people. There's Proctopus in the UK. There's there is the ISM. There's SIPS. There's Procurement Foundry. There's a lot of stuff going on, so it's just dipping in and I know every single person has a problem with data. It's just not everybody wants to fix it or has the time or the inclination or the budget.
Absolutely. So we are much alike, Susan. So me personally, I don't like spending money, right? So this is the free source of knowledge that you have. It's abundance of knowledge, and those are the exact same podcasts that I've listened to as well. Luckily, both of us have been guests on these wonderful podcasts as well. So you get the latest and the greatest of the information. I've been meaning to do SIPs for a while, but I didn't have the courage to or the time to focus on that. But I've done SPSN, which is Senior Professional Supplier Management, many years ago. So that's expired as well, but it gave me some grounding. So my experience also has been on the indirect procurement side, services side, or whatever. So because of that, at least I had some grounding on goods and services, and then I was able to pick a few projects on the manufacturing or the automotive space. So that's how it had helped.
So when I first started out, I had never worked in procurement, so I only know procurement data. And so when I first started my business, I found the best way for me to learn was to talk to other procurement people. That's the way you get the real story of what's actually happening and what people need. Books are great, but having someone tell you, explain something to you, and then be able to ask questions. I just love asking questions, so that's perfect for me.
Yeah, that's the beauty, right? I was in procurement roles for about 8 years of my career as a category manager and guy who helped with the policy procedure. That company had taken up a transformation. I had a lot of data work as well. If you remember the recent post that I put, an old colleague of mine from that time had mentioned about, you put this post saying that I love your data, that you can get a good weekend. And there's this guy called Supratim who wrote, Karthik, I understand where you're coming from. And both of us had worked on this million trackers for contracts, for sourcing savings, spend analysis, all of this. So that's where we could go back, like back in 2008 and 6. Those days were me with spreadsheets. And we thought it was awesome, even running a macro. To get that kind of, my SOT, the site head was like astounded with the work that we could produce based on the Excel sheet. But now when we look back at it, and that was me putting a post in Facebook 10 years ago that I'm getting dreams of spreadsheets. Because I used to have so many spreadsheets that I used to work on day in and day out. Awesome. So The next question I have for you, Susan, is what are the two top mistakes that you see most of the procurement organizations do? And
They don't
I want,
maintain their data.
okay.
So, the data's in the system and they're not checking it, they're not maintaining it. And so it's building and building and building and building into a bigger problem. And
Right.
then the second thing is when that problem exists, they're not doing anything about it. They're just leaving it because they don't always realize the consequences of it when it's wrong.
Absolutely.
Or they do, the ground level, the procurement team do, but they can't get sign off from the business to invest in fixing it. That's always a big problem.
Absolutely. The thing that my personal experience, they're not ready to even agree that there's a problem.
Yeah.
So they should try to brush it under the carpet.
Yes. Yeah.
I've done a lot of procurement transformation in terms of supporting with technologies where I'm implementing a sourcing or procurement or whatever. And for me, my implementation, if I want it to be implemented the right way, the data should be right because I want to make 3, 4 systems talk to each other seamlessly, like they know each other. And part of that is if it's less customization in the inherent current process system, or their ERPs have good data, right? And when I asked in the RFP process, they shake their head nice and clear, saying that yes, we have the best data. And then when I go into a pre-sales call or second round of interviews, I asked when was the last time you looked at it. We never looked at it, but I'm pretty sure it's fine.
Yeah.
So I've seen that happen a lot, and absolutely, those 2 points make a lot of sense. I'm sure most of the people watching this as well would agree to that. And what would you recommend? Right, I've been having this dilemma, Susan, and for certain customers, I give one answer to the other a little different.
Okay.
Do you push for standard UNSPC coding structure, the United Nations specific
No.
codes, or customized ones, or a mixed bag, or a hybrid? What do you prefer?
It really depends on the industry you're in. So if you're in manufacturing, then the UNSPSC is really good. Even like medical and laboratory is quite good. But if you want to cover off your sales, your marketing, your professional services, your facilities, no. So a lot of clients I work with choose to go down the customized taxonomy route because I'm finding more, or certainly with the clients I work with, that they want, they can name the taxonomy in their terms. So, direct, indirect, addressable, non-addressable, facilities, like maybe, in some companies you might have certain things sitting under facilities that would be in MRO in another client.
That's a very controversial topic, right?
yeah. And even things like consultancy, does IT consultancy sit in IT or does it sit in professional services? Same with HR consultancy, where does it sit? And, you could talk to 100 people and get 100 different answers probably, and different opinions as well. So if you want really good reporting and analytics and to make the best spend analytics and of course find cost savings that you can, then I would suggest that you go for a customized taxonomy.
So even the customized, I'm glad that we're aligned. I thought the same way. I've been messing up a lot of my clients over the years. So at least you validated that answer of mine. So I just wanted to understand, is it a complete custom, Susan, or you usually take something like a UNSPC and then trim it down or
I build it from scratch.
Oh boy.
Build it from the ground up. So I take
doing a lot of work.
Yeah, but
first time it was, and then you suck it.
Yeah, I take their spend data and I look through it and I build the taxonomy from that. Now, there might be a little bit of a skeleton taxonomy, but the thing about the UNSPSC is, first of all, it's too wordy. Yeah. Information technology services and broadcasting. Can we just align? Can we just have IT? You know,
Uh,
because it's not chart friendly. So if you want to do analytics and report on that, you know, it's going to take up more space than the chart. So keep your words nice and short, succinct.
we should have a meeting with them as a fact, Susan.
Oh, there's so much I could tell them. Then, yeah, so chart friendly, easy to read, easy to understand. Some of the stuff in the UNSPSC is just mind blowing. It doesn't really make much sense, you know. All the
About a cat or a dog on UNSPSC, they have a cat or a dog as an option.
No, because you would have like 50 different types of cat or 50 different types of dog. It's the same with apples. There's about 20 different versions of apples. It's not. It's trying to please
everyone,
and it's not really pleasing anyone. Yeah,
it's like you try to keep everyone happy in your life, right? Your wife, your mother, your brother, and at the end you're not happy, neither are they happy.
Yeah, totally. That is it. You know,
that's what UNSPSC does.
And I encourage people not to settle for something, but actually get something that works for you, because then you'll use it. You know, trying to get
something that's personal.
Yeah, and also trying to get someone who's never classified data before and get them to use the UNSPSC. It's massively intimidating and confusing. There's lots of big words, and you know, it's not user friendly in my opinion.
Absolutely, and I've been using it for 17 years now, so I know how it is. Like the first thing that we do is once we get into a consulting project, whether it's whatever tool, SAP, Ariba, Coupa, whatever, we go in, we do 65,000 codes, we sit with them and say, let's trim it down to 21 now. Okay, let's trim it down to 11,000 now, because I can't build the structure from ground up for them.
Yeah.
And it starts getting complicated once they have a material master that needs to tie to that, and then something else, and there's the whole connectivity, right? Like right from a catalog. If your catalog is tying to it, a contract is tying to it, what line items are tying to what kind of cats are you buying of 10 blue cats, red cats, pink cats, whatever may be the case. So it gets hyper complicated. So I think data should be much like, unfortunately, what I've seen is data should be human readable. God bless you, Susan.
Excuse me.
So
there's too much pollen in the air.
Oh boy, this is the pollen season, right? I just spoke to one of my colleagues from the States, and he was sneezing off almost every other meeting. And
I don't normally get hay fever, but I have this year. It's definitely hit me.
Oh boy, have you got the jab?
I've got both my jabs.
Awesome. So we should be good then. It's not anything else except for the usual heat fever or whatever may be the case.
Yeah.
And where do you stay? Are you in proper London or in the outskirts?
No, I'm in Surrey.
Okay.
Surrey in Guildford, so it's about 30 miles.
Okay.
But I'm originally from Scotland, so.
That's awesome. Any tips that you would give to our audience from procurement? How do they manage the data? Any simple, small stuff that they could do day on day that can help them not go through the procurement data pains?
Yeah, so it doesn't have to be massively fancy and technical. You can take a dump of your data and do a pivot table. You can aggregate by supplier and look and see how many classifications you have against that supplier. So you could scroll down and look at all the different, and if you see something that stands out, like, you know, ABC solicitors, and you've got one classification for, you know, under professional services and one under facilities, then you're going to know that's not right. So, you know, if you really want to just do a quick spot check to, you know, make sure things are looking okay, and, you know, don't just focus on the top 80% of your value, because that, you know, if you are in a team internally, or if it's a third party supplier, they'll always make sure that that top 80% is perfect. Where you want to be looking is the bottom 20%. That's where all the nasties are going to be hiding.
Absolutely.
So yeah, just, you can do that, or you could do a pivot chart again by category and look at what suppliers are in each category. So even at just level 1, look at the suppliers that are sitting under facilities. Is there anyone that sticks out? Look under professional services, look under travel, look under IT and telecoms, marketing. That's another way. And if you share it amongst the team, then that lightens the load, because if those category owners will know what suppliers are supposed to be in their categories. So it doesn't have to be a massive, like, going through every line. You can quickly do some things with a pivot table.
And how often would you suggest, Susan? Is there a idealistic time that you would suggest?
I mean, it really depends on the volume of data you're dealing with, but I would say monthly or quarterly.
Okay. Awesome. And
I wouldn't leave it any longer than that.
Got it. And I've seen this, like the piece that you're talking about, right? 80% people keep focusing on that 80 over and over again. And they're very happy that they're at least looking at that. They think they're
then they think their data
favor by looking at that.
Yeah, our data's perfect.
Yeah. And whereas you look at it, there's a lot of maverick spend, a lot of bad tail, right? Where you don't have a control over the tail at all.
Yeah.
And there's no satisfaction in the end user on any given day. They keep thinking that. So, and you keep asking, what do I do? What do I do by looking at just the 80%? So I think that is a very good advice that you've given. And I would like to spend some time on the book now, right? If you're okay divulging a few details.
Sure.
And I might have one or two other questions that as well after that, depending on. We got nice time now, so we can definitely look at it.
Yeah. So what do you want to know?
So let me know what the book is about. Is it for someone who is a new guy or off the block, or someone who's experienced, the kind of the reader? Do you see it as someone at a beginner level who could utilize it, or someone who needs to go through some bit of formal data background? I want to understand that first, and how it could help the audience as well.
Yeah. So the full title of the book is Between the Spreadsheets, Classifying and Fixing Dirty Data. So whether you are just starting out, whether you are a seasoned professional working with procurement data, or whether you're a decision maker that needs to know why you should be investing in your data, there is something in the book for everybody. Because it's like I was saying at the start, yes, there is instructional how-to guides, and you could pick it up and do it from scratch, having never done it before. If you are doing it, there's probably some tips in there that you will find that you maybe hadn't thought of before. And then there's the kind of descriptive, the why you need to do it. So there's lots of stories and anecdotes of when things have gone wrong in data, why you need to do this, that, and the next thing. What happens if you don't do this?
Okay.
I've even got a whole chapter on data horror stories.
Oh wow!
So,
that would be interesting.
Yeah, so people anonymously donated those to me. So I chose a few of those. I've also got a dirty data maturity model.
Oh, wow.
So I've been teasing that for the last wee while. So each month I'm revealing the next stage of the model. And this is not your high level, fancy consultancy type of maturity model. This is something that you could give to an administrator, and they would understand it and they could work with it. So it's making it more accessible and more relatable to the people who actually work with data.
Awesome.
Rather than the top decision makers who just like a fancy chart or graph.
A presentation or whatever.
Yeah.
You said about the maturity model, right? The 30 secrets or whatever. I think which part, I don't remember which part you tied it to. So does it let you know after answering a few questions, where do you fit as a person or an organization?
So each section, it will take you through, you are in this section if you do this. And here's what you need to do to move up to the next level. And then this is where you are in the next level, and this is what you need to do to get to the next one. So,
Awesome.
So yeah, I'm not just going, oh, look at this pretty picture. I'm actually giving real examples and
Really meaningful thoughts. Yeah, people something that you can take it and execute it. So I definitely like to read the book myself. As a fact, I've started reading since I've come back, started doing work from home. I used to read only on travel time when I'm on the flights, long flights, or I've started reading now since the lockdown. So I definitely like to get a copy of the book.
As soon as it's ready, I will get you a copy. So it's it's worded in a way that is achievable. It's talking in plain English, really simple terms. Some people might say it's too oversimplified, but actually, to make it less intimidating, we have to start, with the basics.
And how many pages is it, Susan?
I don't know yet. I can tell you it's 50,000 words, but I haven't seen.
I can Google that.
It's still in copy editing. Well, no, you see, I've got lots of images in the book, so that will increase the number of pages. So
I get you.
So I haven't seen the final copy yet. So yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe a few hundred.
Yeah. So that's the kind of book I like. Not too thick, not too thin. So I like this size books.
Yeah, I don't waffle. I just this is what you need to know. Here it is.
Okay, that's good. We have a few questions from our folks. Are you okay if I pulled a few of them?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So I have a question from Mohit Botra. He's a colleague of mine. What kind of measures you suggest to avoid data fraud, so to say?
Data fraud. Well, again, it's down to that maintenance. Don't have one person responsible for looking after the data, because they could hide the fraud. If you're maintaining it regularly and a number of people are looking at it, things like that will become apparent pretty quickly.
Absolutely. And I can add on that classification is the key thing to avoid fraud. Is because if you keep it broad, like I remember, I was working for this telecom giant in the Middle East, in Abu Dhabi, and they were getting invoices from this particular vendor from Pakistan, and they just had biryani. That's it, and they used to give a bill. And you know what's a biryani?
Yeah,
it's a nice delicacy.
In tailspin, nobody's going to notice it.
No one cares. So that's I think classification is required. Having that code structure, like you said, whatever category coding, and making sure that the supplier also understands it, or he follows it, will go a big way.
So there was a story recently here in the UK. A finance assistant had been done for like £100,000 or more, no, millions of fraud over like an 8-year period or something. She worked for like a jewelry company, and basically she had set up a supplier called L&G, and their insurance company was Legal and General. So the people there were just assuming that it was the insurance that was getting paid. So it's so important to not just take things at face value. That's something I talk about a lot, is, double check. Things aren't always as they appear to be.
And the other thing I would suggest is also think of it as it's your money, guys. So and definitely you look at the data, and you'll do, like, if it's your home, you won't leave your wallet out when the door is open, right beside the door. You ensure that you take care of that. So you need to build that kind of a sensibility or attitude towards the company as well.
Yeah.
So that nicely dovetails us into our next question, Susan, and it says, how would you suggest on managing tail spend? So that's the question that I have for you.
So there are a number of different ways you can do it. So you can start by trying to manage it internally. So if you do a massive project, to classify it up front, and that could take you months or years potentially. But once you have it classified, you can then build a master list of classification, so that when that supplier comes in every month, if you're even just in Excel, you can use a VLOOKUP to pull through the classification the next time. So you might, if you want to keep it really simple, you could classify it per vendor rather than by the description. So, you might have tens of thousands of suppliers in tail spend. So if you choose to just do it by supplier only, it still gives you some visibility. There's also a number of different companies out there that will help you with that as well. And I would suggest that you go and ask them questions, get them to do a sample of your data. So something I always do with potential clients is offer to look at like a sample of their data and classify it and normalize it for them, so that they know what they're going to get at the end, because it's hard to visualize sometimes.
But you need to have a picture in your mind, right?
Yeah, it's really important as an organization that you know your data. So even if you do have a third party looking after it, you should still be checking it and maintaining it regularly so that you can spot the fraud things, and make sure that you're not paying a third party to misclassify stuff because they think you won't notice it because it's in tail spend.
Absolutely. You don't care enough.
Yeah.
That's absolutely a very nice answer, Susan. A couple of things that come to my mind as well is data is the given, regardless. Tail spend is all majorly data. But from a process standpoint, if you also have a nice tight policy around what is tail spend, when do you consider it, what type of tail spend is managed, how, have some rules and regulations around it, and then ensure that people abide by it.
I have worked with companies where tail spend is anything less than $1 million, but I've also worked
with
companies.
That's like fun, right?
Or others that's less than 100,000. So, or it's just the top or the bottom 20% of spend. So, work out what and define it for your organization.
Absolutely, and leave the responsibility of the tail spend onto someone. Whoever it is within the department.
Or if
you don't want to manage it yourself.
Or split it between the category managers and get them to just chip away at it. Like, do an hour or 2 a week if you can.
Absolutely. I've seen folks utilize on the tail spend, Susan. They've built a nice supplier database, even on the tail spend as well, right? Even though we don't have a contract with them. And then they run, you get good savings if you use a little bit of brain or a little bit of time. So if you do 3 bids and a buy on every PO or anything that needs to go out, it's a simple thing. If you have a tool, you just sending out the quotations to 3 people who've already been onboarded. They responded to you, get some bit of savings. So once you do that on the bottom 20%, it still is pretty decent savings for you as a company. And along with that, the data is also getting structured. So
I also try to position it this way. So there's a lot of savings to be found in tail spend. So either invest the time with your own employees, or if you pay to outsource it, the cost will probably be less than 5% of the money or that you can save.
And I've seen companies where they come in and they say, I'll take this % of your savings. They don't even tell how much you're going to bill them.
It's really hard to prove how much you've saved or how much they've saved you, whereas I'm like, this is my fee, this is how much it'll cost you, there you go. And you'll probably potentially get like at least 5% cost savings from your total gross spend. But it's so hard to prove what you've saved. Sometimes it's not, but a lot of times it is.
I got Mohammed Al-Tamimi from Saudi Arabia. He has a question for us. He's asking, what is the best data classification taxonomy you would recommend for the telecom material spend? Is there a particular thing that...
You could use the UNSPSC, but I find it's a bit dated. I would probably build something customized for that, because different companies want different levels of detail. I've worked with companies who just want to know if it's, mobile services are a fixed line, or some people want to know if it's PBX, there's a LAN, there's a WAN, there's So it depends on what you need for your business. So I would say, look at what you need and then build it from that.
Absolutely. And I think, like you said, right, the UNSPC might help, maybe not all of it, but
it might help give you a start
deeper from there. Yeah. You can dig it deeper, take it 2 levels down from there.
Yeah, and then there's companies that use satellites and all that kind of stuff, but there's a lot of companies that don't. So, really depends on, how much detail you need.
Absolutely. And if it's a startup, Susan, this is a question from me. If it's a startup, a company that's just coming up, right? What would you suggest them as a data structure for these master data elements, right? Like the UNSPC or company departments or whatever they have. What would you suggest them to go with? Go with the standard?
You have to find something that works for you. Oh, sorry, you broke up.
Still, you need to look at it from that lens. So you're saying you need to look at it from that lens. Still, you need to see whether it makes sense to me or not.
Yeah. So with startups, it's, is the time you're investing in it worth it at the beginning? So maybe you could just use your chart of accounts and your finance software, and that would be fine. You don't need
like QuickBooks.
Yeah, but you have to find something that you're comfortable working with and that works for you.
Got it. Yeah, makes sense. That's a very logical answer. And I think, see, what happens is I've seen few startups who the idea is good. They got a lot of investors. Once the money comes in, they start to think of very big things like these big ERPs or whatever that they want to take. And they expect, since it's a startup, they want it to be deployed in 12 weeks, 6 weeks. So they take whatever is out of the box, and then they get into a mess for the next 3 years. I've seen that happen with a few startups.
Yeah.
And they're almost like a startup acting like a bureaucratic 200-year-old corporate company. So that's the flip side that I've seen. And I'm glad that both of us are aligned. I had one customer in particular who was a startup, and they wanted me to deploy the tool out of the box. I just need whatever is there. I told, you're still not ready for this, bro. You need to grow up first before you take up something like this, or start small, eat a little bits and pieces,
That's
and
what I
then
was
start
say.
to crawl and run. Yeah.
Like I will tell people if they don't need my services or if there's a better option for them. But a lot of these software companies will just be like, buy our software. And they don't really help them with the cleansing of they don't explain that they need clean data before it goes in. And they're like, well, that's not our problem. You just bought the software. So that really frustrates me a lot.
They bundle stuff. I've seen customers where they sold stuff that they don't even need. They don't even have it as a business process. They still freaking sold it. And I was like, why the heck did you buy this? And they got a 3-year contract. And they asked me to deploy. And no one in the client side knows what the heck that process means. How do you expect to build something from ground up when they haven't used anything of that kind in their process?
Yeah.
Any questions that you have, Susan? It's been a true pleasure talking to you today.
So I guess, what are the biggest kind of data challenges that you see in your day-to-day?
Oh boy. In my case, I've spoken one in the beginning, right, where, for instance, the customer is from the automotive industry or chemical guy, and they typically have 22 different ERPs in 22 different site locations.
Yeah.
And because the cost of implementing an ERP on a particular site is higher than the site running cost itself. So they don't want to move to a new software.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So they still are in that legacy DOS prompt kind of technology, black screen. And so imagine I'm trying to pull data from these 22 different ERPs, bringing it into one database, and then from there, my main parent database is throwing out a supplier record. It's going in, replicating it in the CSV file that old 19 dinosaur software recognizes it. So I've done that stuff, and
that's a big issue.
It delayed my project by 4 months because they were not ready from a data standpoint, and they didn't have someone who's ever looked at the data. It's basically one person sitting on the site. Whenever an order comes, he types it in the system. So
Yeah.
one fine day, he had a fight with his wife. He spells 90 differently on that day, and but the day he doesn't fight with his wife, he spells NINETY, NINTY. So payment terms are all messed up. So that's one of the nightmares I've had. The
Do you
same
find-
thing, like go ahead, sorry.
Like people taking responsibility for their data or accountability, like it's someone else's problem. It's not my fault. Someone else did it.
Never.
You know?
So I'm telling you, right? I'm not the guy working. I'm not the client myself, right? I'm not a full-time employee of yours. And they act or question me as though I'm the guy who made the data in that way. And I was like, bro, this isn't me. This is all you or whoever is within your company. So this is not data that I created overnight just before the deployment. I'm just showing you a mirror of what it looks like, and you're surprised. So I've had to bring in consultants such as you, or I had other people in India who are experts at massaging data, creating taxonomies, creating the standard category code stuff and all this. They don't want to spend money. They're okay spending millions of dollars on the technology. They're like, why do I spend on this? This is your problem, Karthik.
How
is it my problem?
Yeah.
Your system is not able to integrate with my data. I told heck no. Look at the SOW in the assumption section. I'm giving you clearly that the data is your problem. You need to have it clean. So they never get to read that stuff. I've had similar issues with loading of contracts as well. So during my career span, I loaded close to 35,000 plus contracts into different tools. Okay. So the contracts are in people's personal drawers or in their cupboards. They're in somebody's email. They're in a million different places. They're with the supplier. They're with the employee who left the company and went. And there's no spreadsheet to even track the high-level header information of the contracts. So different countries, different languages, translating them, and then tying it to a spend or an invoice to understand if it's active or not, because they don't know whether it's active. There may be 100 POs out against it. The contract's expired for 5 years. They're still using the same contract. So those kind of data issues as well have given me a lot of nightmares. But,
I bet,
and now it's an easier sell for me, though. If I go to my customer, talk about data, pretty much they start talking about data even before I start bringing it up. It's not like a surprise, how's your data? And the customer like, what is this data? That's not anymore. So they're at least tuned to some of the intricacies of the importance of data, because they see the value in it for decision making, for big decisions, small decisions, any kind of decisions. It's data. You can't just go by human intellect or emotion, right, to take a decision. So the data gives you that comfortness or confidence that you're doing the right thing, at least. And did you have something else? I just tried to read through the
I was just having a wee look myself there. I think it's have multiple people looking at the data, because people can massage the figures or tell a story that they want to show rather than the truth. So if you have multiple people looking at the data, things like that will get picked up.
Absolutely. And have you seen do you think the industry is mature enough to have this kind of bots or AI, whatever machine learning stuff to look at these? You apply rules, not as yet.
So again, I would say it actually depends on the industry. So manufacturing for like nuts, bolts, screws, parts, I think you can do a really great job with that. Possibly even, medical lab equipment. But there's a lot of stuff where it is just not, wherever context is involved, there's going to be a problem. So I think you have to be really careful about what you, how you use it and your expectations of how accurate it's going to be. And there's still a lot of manual work involved.
Got it. And I put up the question on the screen. Susan, it's Mohammed Al-Tamimi who again had asked about the telecom taxonomy, right?
Yeah.
We are just adding a continuation of the same question. And,
I mean, they should, absolutely. But who's going to be responsible for it?
Absolutely. So
He's going to
right in
maintain
Saudi
it.
Arabia, maintain it. Right in Saudi Arabia itself, I had a customer where the SAP material codes were not working out for them, at least what the MN consultant had given. So we came up with something, and then no one wanted to own it. I told I'm going to leave in 3 months, so I can't have ownership of this for sure. So at least you guys decide amongst yourself who needs to own it.
Yeah.
Ideally, depending on the spend or the kind of business you are, is your end user heavily dependent interacting with the supplier? Maybe then it makes sense that they own the change or at least the request for the change, Mohammed. From what I see, at least raising the change or any changes to the material master, and then maybe you both can collaborate, approve it, or finalize it as a team. And for sure, you need to have every 3 months or whatever may be the case of to take a look at the material dictionary or the structure, coding structure as such. That's what I see has
Yeah.
worked. But this again, we can't. It's not a silver bullet to fix all your problems. This is exactly you need to look at your own company and decide on what works best for you.
Yeah.
And I think anything else before we close, Susan? I really love this discussion. My daughter's a big fan of the animation that you put.
Oh,
She likes
thanks.
the dye that you put, the purple boots that you put.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you are a celebrity in my family. She's a lot into
Oh,
makeup, nail polish, and all of that.
tell
And
her
I'll,
thank
I'll bring
you.
her. I'll bring her over on one of these meetings. Maybe you'll have another
Yeah,
session.
yeah. Once we go where we're not live, bring her in and say hello. I think the last thing I would say is make sure your data has its coat on. So make sure that it's consistent. So if you are using different units of measure, make sure it's all the same. So liters, LTR, etc. Make sure it's organized, so categorize it in a way that you need to find the information so you can get it quickly. So that could be by region, by country, by division, etc. Make sure it's accurate or as accurate as you can get it. And then when you have all those things, it will be trustworthy. And then your data will have its coat on.
Absolutely. The inventor of the code in the data. So I really like that we closed on that mode. Guys, you keep still writing to us. I'll put out the information of how you could reach out to Susan as well as she's got her own website. She's got her own Twitter handle, everything, even
YouTube.
Insta,
Yeah.
Facebook, YouTube. She's everywhere. So if you just go and Google and type Susan Walsh, I'm pretty sure you'll find her.
I'm thinking of even if you just type the classification guru, you'll
Guru,
find me
absolutely.
as well. Yeah.
You'll at least have 8 pages of Google search pages. So you can
Yeah.
go to 8 different pages and get to know about it.
Quite possibly.
So I think we should count that for sure, Susan. You should, that should be an interesting
Well,
one.
the thing is, if I search it, I'll probably get more pages than you because it'll know it's me.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah,
Well,
no, it's been a great chat.
Same here, Susan. I'll get in touch with you. I might have a few other conversations with you as well.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have you as my first guest.
Such an honor. Thank you.
And I intend to bring in more guests from different walks of life, category managers,
can't wait.
CEOs. And talking about, like, you're interested in MSIPs, right? So I'm going to bring specific people who would speak about specific categories. Like how does sourcing procurement work in the defense sector?
Yeah.
Robotics, process automation. How would procurement work in the sports sector, for instance, like a big sports organization. So I am interested in myself to learn.
And actually you could even look at things like, well, which certification do you want to go for? So SIPS or ISM or something else, or do you even need one? Because that's been a discussion that's been around recently as well.
I've been uneducated all my life. Okay, I'm helping with procurement technology deployments, but I'm not a technologist.
Yeah, same here.
I'm a guy I'm a commerce graduate, and I didn't do well in my graduation either.
I did a degree in commerce. No, I did a degree in commerce as well.
Yeah, so that's what we do totally different stuff.
Yeah.
And what God made us do today is just what you've learned. It's just how much you want to learn.
Absolutely.
And, and I do believe MSIPs or all these do matter. If you're it depends on where in your career are you and what your end goal is. Depending on that, I usually give folks different advices.
Yeah.
So I know you plan to pursue one as well, right, Susan?
No, not
You
me.
don't? Okay.
No,
Good,
I'm
good.
just an affiliate. I just want to be,
Okay.
an affiliate. I don't. I'm a supporter of procurement, but I'm not a procurement professional. So
That's right.
yeah, I'm happy to sit on the sidelines.
That's nice. Well, it's a pleasure talking to you, Susan. See you around.
Great.
And thank you, everyone, who was
Yeah.
supporting the
Thanks.
comments. Take care. Bye bye. Nice meeting you.